We're both from Canada in this body, and both of us are kind of from military background. My father was in the Air Force and served in the Second World War, and my uncle. And Arya's father was a police officer in Toronto his whole life. So we have that Kshatriya background. But when I graduated from high school, I got a job as a draftsman because I like architecture, which is how I ended up here in Juhu by Krishna's arrangement. But after 3 years, I realized that I'm not going anywhere with this. I'm making lots of money, but I'm not learning anything about the world. And I wanted to learn more about the world, so I quit the job and I went and I lived in Morocco for a year with no money. And at that time in 1970, it was a kind of a crossroads. So people from North America were heading to India, and people who had been in India and Afghanistan were coming back and going to Europe and back to America. So we had these groups of people coming and going all the time, and we would bump into them in coffee houses and so on, and we'd trade stories and we would trade books. So we got different books by Hermann Hesse and Siddhartha, of course, and it kind of planted a seed, an idea that if I really wanted to find out something about real culture, that I have to keep going. I can't just stay in North Africa or in Europe. I have to keep going to India. So I had in my mind that I have to go back to Canada and earn some money, so I had enough money to go to India. So I did that, and then I met my wife. And I said to her, hey, I'm going on a quest. Do you want to come along?
Find a guru.
I want to go and find a guru, and I want to go and find out what yoga is all about, and I want to cut off all my hair. Everybody had long hair back then. So, lucky for me, she said, yeah, let's do that. So we got together, we worked together, and we saved up money, and we started off in Europe. In Europe, we came across the Sankirtan devotees. We were walking in the Kalverstraat in Amsterdam, and a Sankirtan devotee, a book distributor, approached us and said, hey, I have this book. It's all about yoga, and it will change your life. And I looked at my wife and I said, hey, that's why we came here. Okay, how much is it? He said, well, you just give whatever you have. So I had some change. I don't even know what it was worth, but so I said, yes, I'll give you, yes. I pulled out the change and I said, yeah, I'll give you whatever I have if I can have peace of mind. And he said, yes, this book will give you peace of mind. I said, okay, give me the book. So it was a perfection of yoga, and as you know, on the back is this famous picture of Srila Prabhupada sitting. Of course, at the time I didn't know what he was doing, but when I looked at the picture of the Prabhupada, I thought, oh, this is a real yogi. You could sense the devotion and the concentration in Srila Prabhupada. He was chanting his Gayatri. Of course, I didn't know at the time. And other pictures I'd seen of yogis with long hair and big beard, and I thought, it didn't do much for me. But when I saw Prabhupada's picture, I thought, oh, this is special. So we kept that book, and we traveled around Europe for about a year. And then we decided to go to India, the plan was, and we got stuck. All of our stuff was stolen, and we had to sit in one place for 1 week until some money came from Canada. It'd take 1 week at the time. But we had no money for anything. We couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't even go to a restaurant. We had enough money for 2 bowls of soup, 1 bowl of soup in the morning and 1 bowl of soup in the evening, and that's it. And we had a little camper van, so we were in this little Volkswagen van. And but we had Srila Prabhupada's Perfection of Yoga. Did we have the NOD then? No.
Yeah, we had the Nectar.
Yeah, and there was another of Srila Prabhupada's books that came our way. This is amazing because Srila Prabhupada's books go everywhere. So we were in an American military base in Italy, in the church chapel library. So in the library of a church in a US Army base in Italy, we saw 3 beautiful colored books on the shelf. And they were the Bhagavatam 1, 2, 3. And we pulled out the first one and started to read the cover flap. I always like to read the cover flap, the dust cover. And was so amazed just by reading the dust cover. So we sat down. Every day we would go back there and we would read some of these books. And while we were doing that, one of the GIs saw us reading that book, and they said, I have a book by the same author, and I can't understand it at all. If you want, you can have it. And we said, yeah, sure, we'll take it. So he comes back and he has a Nectar of Devotion, the soft cover pink one, a pink Nectar of Devotion. So we took the Nectar of Devotion and the Perfection of Yoga, and we traveled to Italy. We were in Italy with it, and then everything was stolen. So we had nothing else to read and nothing else to do for a week except sit there and read Prabhupada's books over and over and over again. Of course, the NOD, we didn't really quite understand that much, but the Perfection of Yoga had a profound effect on us. And we kept reading it and discovered that every time we went back to the first page and read it again, we'd remember something else. Of course, we didn't understand why that was until many years later here in Juhu, when the devotees explained about becoming purified by reading Srila Prabhupada's words. Then what?
Well, at that time, there was a lot of Sankirtan devotees in the streets in Europe. And as we were working our way through Europe, heading to India, we would constantly encounter the Sankirtan devotees. And they were always distributing books and inviting us back to their temple.
Yeah.
We didn't really make the connection and recognize that they were all from the same movement. But we just said, no, we're going to India to find our guru. And then eventually we got freed up from Italy and we headed east, and we came into India by way of Amritsar, and we stayed in the Dharamshala at the Golden Temple.
That was October the 10th, 1974.
That was our entry into India. As soon as we crossed the border into India, it was like the sun came out, and it was brilliant. It was amazing transformation.
It was.
And then we stayed up north and headed south. And for economic reasons, we had to come to Bombay on our way to the sunny Goa beaches. And we had to come and wait for some money that my mother was sending. And so my husband said, let's go to the Juhu beach. There's a nice beach there. We can stay there while we're waiting for that Lakshmi to arrive from Canada. And so we arrived here, and first we took a dip in the sea because the water wasn't so dirty back then, and when I came out my shoes were stolen. And anyways, then some travelers from Australia, they said, oh, if you like to visit a temple, there's an American temple just up the road. So we were like, American temple? We didn't come all the way to India to go to an American temple. We were like curious, so let's go check it out. So with the bare feet and all, we walked up the beach and up the little footpath and onto Gandhigram Road, and saw this little building, and people were saying, that's the temple. And we're looking like, where's the temple? We don't see it. That's the temple. and that's when we came, and Daiva Shakti showed us Prabhupada's book picture on the Vyasasan, fantastic picture. And we're like, oh my God, we know that guy. We're reading his books. We're so irreverential. It's embarrassing. And then the rest is history. That evening, Prabhupada came down and we saw Prabhupada for the first time, and he stayed there for 1 week. And we saw the older devotees and how they were relishing Srila Prabhupada's personal association and how they were catering to his needs, and he was reciprocating with them, very generously giving of himself. And Prabhupada gives the example about how the younger child learns from the older siblings how to have affection for the parents. And so that's what we were experiencing. All of these senior devotees are so wonderful. It was spontaneous because we'd already had the seeds of bhakti planted in our hearts from reading Prabhupada's books. And then we met him in person, and then we saw the proper etiquette of how to deal with a pure devotee. And then we stayed for 3 years, and my husband worked with Saurabh, drawing up the floor plans for the new temple and the Vrindavan Gurukula. And then after Srila Prabhupada left the planet, unfortunately before the temple was finished, and then once the temple was finished and the deities were installed and everything was all up and running, then we moved on to Delhi and worshipped Radha Parthasarathi. And that was the end of our Bombay sojourn with Srila Prabhupada here.
So coming to Krishna Consciousness is, it's an event. It's a life-changing event. It's something that should not be taken lightly. And one cannot underestimate the power of book distribution, of Srila Prabhupada's words. These are not ordinary words. When you read Srila Prabhupada's books, it is the profound deepness of divine knowledge bestowed upon humanity by a perfect soul, never to be repeated. These books, Srila Prabhupada teaches us, are left by him to be the law books for mankind for the next 10,000 years. So fortunately, we have the great fortune to be sitting here in Prabhupada's library in Juhu. So you're surrounded here by more knowledge than anyone could ever possibly absorb in hundreds of lifetimes. Yet, if you take one of Srila Prabhupada's books, the smallest book, or the biggest book, or whichever one you're most attracted to, there's enough knowledge in there to purify you to the point where you can go back to Godhead and become free of this material entanglement. Not just one book, even just one chapter. Prabhupada says, even one verse. If we just really seriously understand and believe the potency present in all of Srila Prabhupada's words, and focus on that, and make that our life's mission, then he guarantees that we can break free from this clutches of the material energy, thinking that I am this body, I am Gujarati, I am Hindi, I am black, I'm white, I'm rich, I'm poor. All of these things, Srila Prabhupada explains us, just the very basics of understanding Aham Brahmasmi, I'm not this body, I'm spirit soul. Well, if I'm spirit soul, there must be a supreme soul. And yes, Srila Prabhupada explains every page of his book. Yes, Krishna is Param Brahma. We are Anu, he is Vibhu. He is the greatest and we are the smallest, but we are part and parcel of Krishna. And through Prabhupada's teachings, this will be made so clear and so simple that anyone can understand it. So we highly, highly encourage everyone to seek out and purchase and study Srila Prabhupada's books. He wanted us, I was just reading this quote right here, Prabhupada himself every day would read his books. And he encourages us as well to read his books on a daily basis. He says minimum 1 hour. You can find the time to do that. Right now we live in a culture of distraction. Everything is about distraction, especially with this new technology. It's intended to distract us from what? From our goal of life, which is to go back to Godhead. Our goal of life, which is to find a bona fide spiritual master and acharya and follow him. That's the goal of life. And we're distracted by this technology. We can break through this technology. Of course, we can use the technology like we are now to get the message through, but we can use it and we can break through the implications of that technology by focusing on Srila Prabhupada's message. So we highly encourage everyone to even older devotees. I know sometimes, we've been in the movement for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years. We have a tendency to want, let me read something else, someone else. And it's okay. But we must always remember we have to follow Prabhupada's instruction and read his books every day, even if it's only for a short time. Even if we just attend one Bhagavatam class and hear one sloka every day, that's what we need to do. This will guarantee us a presence once again in Srila Prabhupada's association. And that is the wish of all of Prabhupada's disciples and grand disciples, that everyone, the whole planet, becomes purified. And that's why there's so many books going out, and there's great marathons going out, especially in the winter marathons. So we just encourage everyone, especially the book distributors, keep doing what you're doing. You're making Srila Prabhupada extremely happy, very pleased with every book that goes out, and everyone who gets one, please read it again and again, and keep coming to see Lord Krishna in his deity form. Worship Srila Prabhupada in the temple and in your home, and I guarantee it will make your life perfect, and you'll become peaceful and happy. And your children will too.
So Krishna Consciousness offered us a nice foundation by which we could raise our family and try to instill within them the basic principles of Krishna Consciousness, and how to find real joy and happiness by serving the Lord of the heart and observing the principles and the lifestyle and offering our food to Krishna. So to the best of our abilities, we applied these teachings to our family life, and consequently now in our senior years, I can say that I'm happy with my householder career, and that to the best of my ability, I did attempt to convey these principles and values to my family members. And now it's nice to be a senior citizen and be confident that we've taught them the basics, and pray to Krishna that they will pursue their own spiritual careers individually and collectively, and feel eternal gratitude to Srila Prabhupada for explaining to us about Lord Krishna, Paramatma within the heart, guiding our wanderings, and the love of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna, and Lord Chaitanya's magnificent teachings of Bhakti and Krishna Prema. So I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to all of the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, and to Lord Chaitanya's mission, and to Srila Prabhupada's magnificent teachings. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.